Synthaholics. It's the Red Table Podcast.
Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
Aaron O'Brien.
Aaron O'Brien, how's it going?
I'm going well.
Going well.
I'm going well. I keep on going. Haven't forgot anything yet.
Yet.
Well,
today is Saturday, the 22nd
yes.
of July. And the only reason I mention the date, because I never ever mention the date, but today is the day at San Diego Comic-Con where Star Trek Discovery is going to have their panel.
We're not there.
And we're not there.
They didn't invite us.
They didn't like give us like VIP seats or anything.
Jerks.
No free plane ticket or hotel or anything.
What's going on with these people?
I have no idea.
No appreciation.
I know, but we're recording early today, and so
the one time we never do, just because our scheduling made it, we had to go early. So we're not going to get to see the panel.
We're not going to get to hear about the panel till after the recording is over. So we may or may not cut in some extra stuff later. Who knows?
And this will all be cut out if that's the case.
Last year at Comic-Con, we saw our first ever trailer intro for Discovery, where they showed the poorly rendered CG version of the ship and the asteroid
Discovery flying out of that asteroid thing,
and everyone hated it. Oh, I hated it.
I didn't hate it; just was like, meh, whatever. It's just a ship.
It just didn't look.
It's not a great ship either, but it's a ship.
It didn't look all that fancy. And because that's where we saw our first footage ever, I'm expecting like a new trailer, a new sizzle reel, something that will come out of this panel.
I'm sure,
along with some news, because I mean, I can't. I don't know what they're going to have a panel for if they can't say anything.
Well, we're so close now. Like,
yeah,
we're only 2 months away.
Rainn Wilson's doing the moderating for the panel, so Harry Mudd will be doing the moderation.
I hope he's dressed like Harry Mudd.
I hope so. Like his outfit they showed looks pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Like it looks like an updated, more crazy version of his outfit
of Harry Mudd. Yeah.
The Discovery, they've put out some new versions of the ship, and the ship in the original trailer had like these indented grills, and now those are completely gone. Now the ship looks like it's like the bridge section's like a sphere,
on it by itself,
and then there's a saucer around it, and then there's a saucer around that.
Yeah,
so like a sphere within a saucer within a saucer. It looks really cool, but it looks super impractical.
Yeah. Very impractical, and also looks like it could get like blown apart really easy.
Like that's the thing. Like we were actually talking right before, because this kind of comes up in our episode a little bit. It's like tactics when it comes to like fighting Federation ships or any ships.
So
like,
easy to blow apart.
Yeah, because I mean, also even the Klingon ships, like the D7, they've got that itty bitty thin neck.
That long.
It's all super bulky everywhere, and then they get that itty bitty long thin neck.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think
beautiful design.
I like the D7. I like the Constitution class look, but. Technically,
they have all these like super like
the weak spots.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like you're saying, if you're going to take out a Constitution class, fire at the supports to the nacelles
and the neck, just like what happened. Krall did in Star Trek Beyond. I mean,
yeah.
It was the first time we've seen like intelligent attacks done on the Enterprise.
Well, anyway, so we've got some new scenes of Discovery or new pictures of Discovery.
They've got like a whole room of like their costumes and all this crazy stuff. Did you see the Klingon one?
Yeah, I did. Like uniform, or was it like an exosuit or something like that?
Yeah, it was. It's the torch. They're calling it the Torchbearer outfit. It's like a spacesuit / armor.
It's cool looking.
It looks really cool.
First time we've seen that for Klingons.
Yeah,
too.
I don't think we've ever seen Klingons EV except for in Star Trek.
I've never seen
First Contact when Worf is wearing a Federation.
Well, yeah, but that's Federation. Yeah, but it's the first time, so it's cool. It's a little ornate.
It's very ornate. Glenn Hetrick and some other guy from the Face Off TV show. These are the guys who are judges on the Sci-Fi's channel, where they get contestants or like makeup artists to come on. It's cool to see. Like I used to watch that show somewhat frequently. It's kind of cool to see these guys see what they're doing, like in the world, instead of just judging other people's stuff.
Right.
And they said, I think the description next to the armor said that this was like be impossible without 3D printing because it's so intricate.
I believe it. Yeah,
it's cool. I can't wait to see it in action instead of just kind of standing there.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff coming, and like I said, it's right around the corner. Discovery will start it's premiering, so
yeah,
be here sooner than we
September 24th.
It's going to be here sooner than we think.
Whatever the last Sunday is in September.
Yeah, so
I'm not looking at a calendar right now, but yeah, it looks great. A lot of the stuff coming out there, the props look great. The new phaser and phaser rifle look great. Like the hand phaser looks like a perfect combination between the cage phaser and a TOS phaser.
But TOS, right? Yeah.
Modernized a little bit to make it look a little more sleek and less like a shaver. But
well, yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's like the cage one was cool, but I mean, after a point, it's like you can't keep. Can't. I mean, we've gone too far to go back to the cage.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a cool in the middle look for the phaser. Like it's got like the shaver area that looks like it pops in. It's got like the same grills in the back. It's got like the same like different kind of different parts of it, articulation. Like there's a dial on the side of it and a dial on the top of it, and then the front's got the 3 different holes like the cage had. The cage had 3 different prongs coming out the front of the fader, and then it looks like you twist it to power it up or whatever.
Right.
Looks cool.
Does look cool. So it's exciting. Very nice.
Exciting. Hopefully we'll get a trailer today. Got our fingers crossed. So if we don't talk about it today, we'll talk about it next time. And if there is no trailer, oh well.
But this episode, we're going back in time before Discovery.
Back when werewolves and vampires sparkled.
Not that far back in time.
What?
No, we're going a little.
We're talking about Twilight today.
Yeah, I think that's a different type of Twilight. So we're talking about Enterprise. We're season 3, episode 8. The episode is Twilight, and it first aired November 5th, 2003. And it's written by Michael Sussman and directed by Robert Duncan McNeil.
A.K.A. Tom Paris from Ye Old Voyager.
So you can blame him for all this. So should we jump into it?
Yeah.
So we start off. Archer wakes up in his quarter. He's in. All of a sudden, he hears explosions and he rushes up to the bridge, half naked. As I think, I think
punches his poor little ensign who's guarding his room.
What are you doing? I think Archer Bakula just likes to run around without a shirt on because he's got like such a good physique. He's like,
I think he had a tank top.
No, he had nothing.
Really?
Yeah, just big hairy, buff, pectoral muscles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
good old Scott Bakula.
Yeah. So anyways,
Count Scott Chocula.
Count Chocula. So he jumps on, gets to the bridge. T'Pol's dressed in command uniform. And he's like, what's going on? And Hoshi's like, they're firing their weapon, and all it fires on Earth, and Earth blows up.
Earth blows up. The Xindi Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. And then we go to after commercial, and then after that...
And then it's painfully obvious that we're in Season 3, where we have the remix of the song.
Oh, yeah. And
it's somehow worse than the original.
Well, it's even worse because you just watch Planet Earth get destroyed, and then he's like, it's been a long time. And you're just like,
it's
no.
Like way too happy and upbeat, way more happier than the previous one.
Yeah, it just didn't work.
It's just so bad.
So next we have Archer wakes up. He's in, his hair is gray. And he goes and when he gets out of bed, he finds T'Pol. T'Pol has long hair. She looks relatively the same because Vulcans really don't age that well. I mean, that much.
That fast.
And he's like, what's going on? Like last time I was on the bridge and he doesn't remember anything. And T'Pol's like, I'm making breakfast. I'll explain everything soon.
Yeah, it was 12 years ago.
It was a long time ago. There's a reason for that. So she ends up going, telling him
How the accident happened.
recounting. Yeah, so basically they're in the Delphic Expanse. All of a sudden there is one of those weird anomalies that
Just pops up.
yeah, and it hits the ship gets hit a couple times, and some of the parts of the ship fall apart, and they fall onto
T'Pol's leg.
T'Pol's leg. Right, thank you. And Archer's trying to free her from being pinned under there, and then one of these anomalies starts coming through the hallway, and
It does this cool like ripple effect where like the whole ship's like getting deformed.
yeah, and he just lifts it. He can barely lift. He just gets it lifted so T'Pol can take off, but then he gets hit with it. He wakes up later, and it becomes obvious in a little bit that he can't remember anything long term.
This is Star Trek's version of Memento.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Except with a lot less tattoos and no carry-on moss.
no, yeah, nothing like that. So from there, they kind of start going into what's going on. So in Archer's brain, in his hippocampus, there's some interspatial parasites that give him this amnesia, and that he can't remember.
Like, he can remember everything that happened before, it's just he can't form new memories.
Right, it's Alzheimer's, technically.
Memento.
Yeah. So Phlox is trying to find a cure, but it turns out that they're not totally in our.
They're not in our phase.
Yeah, they're kind of like in and out of our plane of existence. So like they live on two different dimensions or something like that. I can't quite.
Some kind of subspace thing.
Some space garbage. But anyway.
Technobabble for the win.
So Archer's relieved from his commands, and T'Pol takes command of the Enterprise. So from there, they're trying to track down the Xindi weapon, and during this time, they're trying to include Archer to kind of keep him useful, but it's just not working.
They bring him to the captain's, the captain's
Quarters.
mess.
Yeah, captain's mess, right? Yeah.
So they can have dinner and talk about stuff and catch him up on things. It's like, hey, I've got these new specs.
I got these specs for those for your warp engine. And he's like, you showed me this like a week ago.
Like a decade ago, dude.
Yeah, it's like, we already did that. They're working great. Thanks. So
Like, they should have recorded something for him to wake up to. It's like, oh, this happened there. Thanks, your specs are working great.
I know.
It just seems like they could have done a little thing from when he wakes up. Before he could even open his door, it's like
Before all these things play.
It's just a little recap they do.
Yeah. Some guy just edits a video constantly. Next, we get the Xindi they come under attack for Enterprise. Travis dies.
Woo!
It's the only time we really see Travis, and he gets killed.
Things happen.
Yeah, things happen. And during the attack, T'Pol has to. The Xindi kind of latch onto the ship, onto the Enterprise.
Oh yeah.
And she.
That's how they start invading, and they start just killing people all throughout the hallways.
Did you notice the Xindi seem to the Federation Makos are firing on the Xindi, but then they kind of there's another group that kind of flanks around them.
Yeah.
And don't they think to turn around and keep their ass covered?
Why did the Xindi know the ship better than the Makos?
And they did it twice. So this is the first time they take out some Makos, and next time they do it again.
And the thing is with the Xindi, it's always the reptilians who are the biggest assholes.
Oh yeah,
for the
right.
for the Xindi who are doing all the dirty work.
Right.
The thing interesting, I know we talked about Discovery a little bit beforehand, and we've seen the trailer how the Klingons had that really ornamental armor, where it kind of sticks out a lot from the shoulders and it's kind of gold bands. The Xindi's the weird little wireframe reminds me of that a little bit.
I think it should be barbed wire or something like that. Instead of just wires, it looks weird. Unless it's electrified.
Yeah, because they've got this weird purple jumpsuit, and they've got these gold wires that form shoulder pads.
I can't figure out what those were supposed to be. And then they got those weird piping that comes out of their head.
Yeah.
Another weird thing.
Hair.
It's weird reptilian hair.
I was watching the scene in Star Trek 3 just randomly on YouTube where McCoy's in the bar with the weird guy.
Oh yeah, he's got those whiskers.
I think he's related to Picard's fish Because he's got the same kind of like in the lionfish. He's got those multicolored spotted things coming out. It looks like they're like the lionfish things coming out of his head and his cheeks and stuff like that. I was like, he's a lionfish.
You're a lionfish. Incredibly stupid lionfish. Genesis
is forbidden.
Forbidden is. And so anyway,
Star Trek's version of Yoda.
The dumbest version of Yoda ever.
I like him.
Well, yeah, you like him, but you just go, oh, this guy. I mean, you've had to be stuck with that guy on a freighter for like a while. You'd be like,
you'd be great. No, but it'd be like a fun movie, like if they start doing Star Trek spin-off movies that aren't anything. We could have a movie about him.
No, let's not do that.
Stuck on a freighter.
Yeah, stuck on a freighter, like Genesis. Just gives it. Oh, that's all he yells out. Genesis, dude. That was like
Your
months
voice
ago.
is carrying.
That blew up like months ago. You gotta let it go.
Planet Forbiddenness.
Oh man, I gotta get off this ship. Anyway, so
he's so great. I want to see more of those aliens.
Oh no. So, well, we get to see one of them, not one of those, but a different alien that's a little bit like that later on here on this episode. So the Enterprise is trying. The Xindi are on the Enterprise, and they're attached to the Xindi ship is attached to Enterprise. But there's another Xindi ship, and what T'Pol ends up doing is taking it and flying really quickly and ramming the Xindi ship with the other Xindi ship since it's attached to it. But
I think that was an awesome idea.
That was kick-ass. Now, Tucker didn't really think so because she smashed like the starboard nacelle and pretty much knocked it out. So.
Fused all the injectors. He's like, yeah, it took like 5 minutes if we were at
Jupiter Station.
But 6 months minimum.
Yeah.
Suck it.
And they can only do like warp 0.7 or something.
1.7. Yeah, it's awful.
So they're
limping around the galaxy with their.
We'll get there someday. It's been a long time.
Getting to Alpha Ceti 5
Vega colony. So anyways, that's they're fighting the Xindi, looking for this weapon that we saw at the very beginning, blow up Earth, but they're not too successful, and the Xindi's kind of like a step ahead of them constantly.
All the time.
Yeah. So
because Archer can't remember anything.
Right. So later, T'Pol explains that Enterprise and the Intrepid and other starships led a convoy of 6,000 survivors of humans to Alpha Ceti Alpha 5. Which we know does not end well.
That planet's going to be toast in about 100 years.
100 years. You got about 100 years, and then that's about it.
We can get that population of 6,000 up.
I like how they did that. That's like just putting the screw to humanity a little more.
It's just like everyone's fucked.
It's like,
and like I love Archer's reaction whenever he's like, how many? He just bends over. He's like been gut punched, and then he runs out. Is like, gotta start fucking. Guys, where's the women? Gotta start making the babies.
Where are the women?
Because he just runs out the door like a crazy person. I'm expecting him to like gotta fuck. Well, he gotta make them babies.
I don't know. It's like I was thinking about this when I watched it. It's like something about Archer is like he is like the ultimate like good guy. Like he always tries to do what's best, and like when bad things happen, it really hits him hard.
Yeah.
But it's just like I still don't give a fuck. That's the problem with Archer. It's like he's not compelling. That's the problem. There's something about him that's not super compelling. There's everything. When I'm watching this, and we'll get into this later, and I don't want to like get in because I just want to finish up wrap up the show and everything. But everything about Enterprise is almost all there. You know what I mean? It's like it's all like really cool. The stories are interesting, the characters are interesting, but just something just doesn't cut it through. Like doesn't make it amazing. That's the one bad thing about Enterprise. I can't put my finger on it.
Enterprise
it misses the magic.
A little bit hammy.
Yes.
Like I feel like Bakula was trying to play a version of Kirk.
Maybe.
And so some of his reactions are a little bit ham-fisted, where they could have been play a little bit better.
Right.
Because I feel like they were going for more of the Kirk vibe, more than a Picard vibe, even though he had, like, the gotta be perfect, like, Picard thing going on.
Right. No, I mean, he's an interesting character, don't get me wrong. But anyways, we'll get into it a little bit later, because I was thinking about, after watching this show, this episode here, I was thinking about Enterprise and why it just never seemed to be people's favorite. I can't quite figure out exactly why. But anyways, yeah, so they're on SETI Alpha 5, where Khan would have been marooned, and then SETI Alpha 6 would have exploded and shifted the orbit and turned into a...
It would be funny if they just show the Xenniers randomly blow up Botany Bay. Like, oh, humans are there, boom!
Solve that problem. So and then T'Pol says, at this point, you're wondering if you're a victim of some elaborate deception. And he says, it crossed my mind. But then she tells him about a story about Margaret Mullen, a woman he has to marry, and during...
the woman who got away.
Yeah, and then he's like, how did you know all this information? And he's like...
We've become very close.
He's like, our relationship has evolved. He goes, how evolved?
Married. I would assume at this point they're sort of like married-ish.
Yeah. I can't quite figure out exactly what's going on, but...
I mean, I don't know if he's technically able to consent since he can't remember anything a couple hours later, but I mean, like, it's to the point where, like, she's more than just a caretaker.
Yeah. Well, then Phlox comes in, arrives from Denobula, and he's got some new...
I don't think you came out all this way to give me a checkup.
And he's like, you didn't tell him, did you? Well, he says that because of these, like, parasites in his brain, they're basically... they need... he was consulting with top physicians and like quantum physicists about this, and they're like, short of a subspace implosion that would destroy the parasites, it would be almost impossible to treat you. But now they figure out this way that they're going to use a warp core.
We can hook you up to a warp engine, and everything will be fine.
They'll stick you in the warp core, and you'll be fine. No, but they're using the warp core, they're going to fire alpha particles into his brain, and those will somehow eliminate, like, by basically shooting like a laser of alpha particles into him. So he comes. They go to the Enterprise for this, and they go to they get to see everybody.
I got a little bit choked up whenever, like, he came back on the Enterprise and, like, Hoshi was there, and everyone was like, "Oh, hey!" And it's just like, oh, it's just like he doesn't remember anything. Like I know you say things aren't all there, but like the relationships and knowing how they all relate. No, it still works.
My point is, it all is there, but it just misses that magic. I don't know what that is yet. I can't quite put my finger quite on it, and I don't know exactly what it is. So, but yeah. So they arrive on the Enterprise. He sees Tucker is in command now. He's the captain,
and somehow the mirror version of Reed has showed up.
Yeah, Malcolm Reed is been promoted to captain. He's taking over the Intrepid. But he's still on the Enterprise.
And he has a goatee, which is why he's the mirror version of Reed.
Exactly. And like I said, he says Hoshi and everything. But they start doing their tests on the equipment, and it has promising effects that they basically realize that when you remove the parasites from his brain,
they removed in all the previous scans too.
So. It doesn't just affect what's happening now; it affects the past too,
because they exist like outside of time. I think they said
outside of time. So in different time space. So their theory is, if they remove all the parasites, then time will be reset to the time when
it happened.
And there'll be everything. Humanity will be saved.
But Trip Tucker ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So. He what happens?
We need the weapons.
The Xindi they're constantly on alert for the Xindi showing up. What they do find is there's a ship hiding by the sun by SETI Alpha.
The Mole Man.
Yeah, so we get one of your interesting aliens that are just like sitting there, like the guy from Genesis, but just different.
His makeup is absolutely astounding, though.
He looks like almost real.
I can't believe the amount of work they put into that makeup, and that you see it that one time. That is like super incredible.
Yeah, like you don't really. It's weird because he looks so real. It's almost unbelievable.
Like the mouth moves really good around it, and the eyes are so creepy looking. Like it's like. He is so perfect, and that's another thing that's got me super psyched about Discovery. Like, if this looked good, like, 12 years ago, I just can't imagine what
I know,
alien
exactly.
creatures are going to look like in Discovery.
Well, so this guy's name is Yurden Leak, and he is a Uridian spy.
Iridian.
And so...
I dumped my cargo. The fire gyms are illegal in this part of space, don't you know?
But, you know,
You're an information dealer. I dumped my information, too.
I dumped all that, too. And I took a dump at my pants. So
You could search through that if you
search
like.
through that. Malcolm's like, I searched through his feces. All I found was worms.
Mouse pellets.
Mouse pellets.
He ate mouse shit.
And then he shit out mouse shit. It's really weird.
That's really weird.
Well, and then there's a big showdown. The Xindi do show up because this guy must have spied on him enough to get a message to the Xindi. The Xindi show up, and there's a big fight. And the Xindi obviously take over the Enterprise, and they're...
I think it's weird. Like this, it seems like the Xindi somehow know that Archer's been infected with this parasite because they're coming after Archer because they were following Phlox.
Well, maybe they knew
the
Phlox. Maybe they knew Archer was with the human settlement, and that Phlox was going to probably go and visit Archer at some point. That's a possibility if they hadn't like the right intelligence with the humans. So, well, anyway,
I just think it's interesting because I was like, I mean, like I wasn't thinking about it that way. I was thinking about it that maybe they knew that he's got the disease and that it's going to reset time. Like, I wish we got some point. I wish we got some point of view from.
I think they just
the
knew.
Xindi.
I think the Xindi knew that Archer was one of their enemies. They knew when he was.
If they follow Phlox, they find the colony.
That something would come of it.
That makes more sense.
So during their Xindi attack, obviously, like I said the Enterprise was invaded with the Xindi, and they're killing everybody. The bridge is destroyed. The Xindis.
They specifically target the bridge,
And they just completely blow it up, and everyone gets sucked out in space. So the whole command crew's dead.
It's a brilliant scene. Like, it's one of the only times in Star Trek on television or in the movies, I think, where they've ever specifically targeted the bridge to destroy the bridge and take it out.
Right. Well, and then later after that,
they're trying to climb up the ladder to the bridge. It's like, oh, the bridge is gone.
Bridge is gone.
Oh well, let's go back to engineering and let's just get rid of the bugs.
Yeah. So they realize that they only got one shot on this, and what they do is they set the they set the engines that they're going to overload.
They're going to do that subspace implosion instead of because his head chamber has been destroyed.
My head chamber. Xindi blew up my head chamber. So T'Pol gets shot while they're doing that by the Xindi.
Phlox gets shot and falls off the balcony. And a great shot of sparks.
And Archer takes like 3 shots.
He takes 3 shots and still gets up and moves this panel and presses these buttons and pushes the dial. Like,
well, like we've seen like Archer fight the Augments. Which
That's
I
true,
mentioned
I guess.
before, and like
maybe he's an augment and nobody told him.
My point is that
Like
Archer can definitely he can take some hits and he can keep going. You know, it's pretty amazing that Archer is tough as he is, and he's as even keeled as he is too. So
yeah,
but the implosion happens.
He falls over. His head lays on T'Pol.
Slow.
I love how they're in engineering, right? And they set this thing to explode, but like parts of the saucer furthest away from engineering are the first parts to explode and break off. I'm like, how does that work? Shouldn't engineering blow up first, and then
I don't know,
and the rest of the ship?
I don't know, but then time resets, and we have Archer back in the sick bay. And T'Pol comes and visits them, and
here's Rosemary's Child.
You wanted to watch it.
You wanted
so
to
bad.
watch it, and you can't leave sickbay tonight.
And then she takes a pillow from the pillow dispensary drawer. It'd be awesome if it's like gross pillows.
Gross pillows.
That's the only thing I thought.
Kind of like a Spock's thing grows marshmallows. Sitting here.
Yeah. Pillow.
Yeah, I had the physical one made by Kraft back in the day.
What do you mean?
The marshmallow dispenser.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you could stick 3 whole marshmallows.
They should make a drawer that makes pillows.
That'd be sweet.
I think they should make that.
So my pillow wears that a lot.
Mine too. Keep making out with it at night.
Just slam my head into it, it gets flat. I need it fluffier.
Anyways, listen to that heavy metal.
Yeah.
So then, he says, "Can you turn down the light?" And then she turns on the light. Is there anything else? No, that's fine. And
You make a great nurse.
It's like, thanks for patronizing me, you asshole. And then it wraps up from there. But we kind of realize that without Archer, the Xindi War would have gone terribly wrong.
Yes, somehow.
Archer had enough leadership and skills and whatever else that he had was to...
Which we find out later this season, because this whole season's about the Synthaholics War.
Yeah, tell me about it. It kind of drags out for me. So, Twilight, your thoughts after watching this?
I don't remember. See, the thing is, like, when we were trying to come up with an episode for this week, I was I had an idea in my head, and I remember like a generation ship, and I remember the bridge exploding, and I thought they were the same episode. I didn't realize they were two separate episodes till I looked it up and watched the episode. So I don't remember this. I mean, this episode isn't as good as I remember it, but what made it stick out in my head was that the bad guy shot the bridge and they blew up the bridge, because that's something we've never seen before in Star Trek. And if I was a Starfleet captain or some other kind of captain, I'm going after my enemy. I'm like,
Xindi captain.
Yeah, like shoot the bridge. Take out take out the brain of the ship. I mean, like,
yeah, all the most experienced officers besides maybe engineering.
You could probably take over the ship from engineering and take it back, and you could fix it up. Make it your own. I mean, like, why mess up all the other parts of the ship? Just take out the brain.
Well, and shout out to Guy Davis, who I'm not sure if he did this before this, because it's 2003, but his Tamberlin story starts off with a battle with the Klingons, and they blow up the Tamberlin's bridge. And then after the ship gets rebuilt, they get the new command crew on it with his main characters, Cochrane. And so anyways.
Yeah, I remember that reading from the first big arc he had, which was really, really cool.
But yeah, that does seem like what you're saying. Federation ships definitely have some weak points. I mean, so does the D7. D7's got the long neck. It seemed like just a no-brainer just to blow the neck off.
And ironically, probably one of the most solid ships in Star Trek is like your standard Ferengi ship.
Yeah.
It has a neck, but it's not thin.
Right.
It's only slightly thinner than the bridges, and the rest of it's just that big hulking crescent.
Yeah.
I mean, the Borg sphere. I mean, the Borg cube. Those are just solid ships. But I mean, like, they're they're literally spheres and cubes.
Nothing really to see there.
Yeah, but I think the Ferengi ship's probably easily one of the most solid, like, least structural looking weak points in Star Trek that I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, the argument always with the nacelles is that they have some sort of radiation, and to keep them away from the ship is a protection. Yeah. I mean, you're only talking, maybe a football field away? I mean, at most.
I wouldn't think they're that far away.
I'm just saying, at most, you know. So it's like, you're not that far. And, like, the front of the nacelles are, like, often very close to the dish.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that just seems explanations for reasons.
But it's just that episode stood out to me. Like, literally, I basically just typed in the episode where the bridge gets targeted and destroyed, because that's what stuck out to me about this episode. And it was a good story. It was kind of neat seeing. It feels like it's kind of early for this to happen.
Right.
Like, it's sort of like a flash forward in a way for, like, oh, this is how the Xindi War could go.
Right. It definitely has like a Battlestar Galactica feel to it, too.
It does.
How they all look at the fleet that's going through space.
And there's only like 6,000 people. And, there's all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, it was a good episode, but it just wasn't as good as I didn't really remember the episode completely, so I'm not going to say it's like the best episode. What about you?
I remembered it after watching it. I mean, when it kicked on, I was like, okay, I remember this one. Yeah. There's a couple points about it that I took away. One, like I said, after watching it, it does have that big question about, like, why wasn't Enterprise super successful? And I can't, like you said, the characters have heart, they have connection. You like the characters. Yeah. Maybe Bakula's maybe the least likable, but he definitely has a gravitas to his character. Like,
I think he's a fine actor. A lot of people, I know a lot of people who I've talked to just randomly, and a lot of people just cite, I don't like Enterprise because Quantum Leap guy is in it. Like, it's just like I
it's hard to pin down exactly.
I never watched Quantum Leap, so I never had that. I don't have that stigma.
It's like Enterprise, but without the ship. No,
Yeah.
it's not. But Quantum Leap was an interesting show for sure. It's like he would wake up in different time periods, and he had to set something straight.
I mean, I've seen a couple episodes since I've seen Enterprise.
Yeah,
but I mean,
like
but before Enterprise, like I never had seen it, so I didn't have that stigma. that
Like
people
he'd
seem
wake
to
up
have.
and he'd in Quantum Leap he'd be like he'd look like Scott Bakula, but when he'd look in the mirror, like he'd be like a black guy living in Jim Crow South or something like that, or like a woman. Like, in like frontier times or something like that. I mean, really weird.
Or with a really shitty boyfriend who's been beating.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it was. Yeah. So it was. He put him in these really, a standard white guy, and sometimes he was just a white guy, but like in like these really strange situations that you would normally never experience. So it has a lot of interesting properties to, and it was a creative show for sure. I don't know if it's exactly you want to pin it totally on Bakula.
I don't. I mean, I don't. I mean, I like the show. I don't know.
But you have to admit, the magic just doesn't hit. Something about it is missing. Like, even Voyager, like, I know we're critical on Voyager. Voyager has points where, like, oh, that's a really good show. I mean, that's a really good episode. Or, like, there's times, like, I don't know, like I know there's some great episodes of Enterprise, but there's a lot that's like, what's missing? It's like a band that puts out like their hit best album they ever put out, and their next album is pretty darn good, but just doesn't have that whatever that album
that feel is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really have that with Enterprise. Maybe like you do, because I like Enterprise better than Voyager as an overall product.
But Voyager was far more successful and ran longer. Or is that just the politics against it?
I think Enterprise had a lot of politics against it. Enterprise was probably the first show that was really on during like when the internet age was getting big.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of backlash at, I mean, like
Scott Bakula.
Or just Star Trek in general. Like, everyone's always super critical on a new show.
Yeah.
Right when it's supposed to start coming out. I mean,
Well, when they went to cancel it, everyone went to
a lot of people
save
went out there. A lot of people did. But I mean, I don't know. It's just, I feel like the studio just kind of had enough.
Yeah.
And then season 3, they put it kind of in the Friday death slot. And then from what we heard from Larry when he was on, he was telling us that they basically just wrote them a check for the 4th season. It's like, we need to hit syndication numbers.
Yeah.
Do another season, and you're done. I mean, like, they weren't even going to think about doing another season. They're just like, we need syndication money. Star Trek always does well in syndication. Here's a check for season 4. Get us our numbers so we can get money from this, playing.
Right.
On syndication. So, I mean, and then season 4 got really good because the studio was like, washed their hands of it. And they weren't, like, directing everything. You got Manny Koto and all that.
Season
that awesome
4
stuff.
is the best of Enterprise. If you're going to go into Enterprise, just watch Season 4. I mean, the Xindi War has its interesting spots. It just kind of drags out for me. I kind of wish it would kind of.
You got to watch at least the last episode of Season 3 before you watch Season 4.
Right, but okay. But yeah, I know what you mean. But,
Because it's a 2-parter cliffhanger.
But, yeah, so that was the first thought I had was like, man, like what? Why isn't, like, this is a good episode. There's nothing really wrong with the episode. It's a standard Star Trek-esque episode, but it just doesn't have, like, those, like, like, the Next Generation, you had these great, awesome, like, characters that you've just loved, and I don't know, maybe just, like, maybe it's just that magic that certain things all come together at once. I don't know. I don't have the answer for it. If anybody's listening to this and has like ideas why Enterprise seems to miss those beats, whatever it is that, original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, even Voyager had just something about them. Something misses. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Maybe it was a prequel.
Yeah, maybe because you're looking for, like, you already know what's going to happen kind of thing. But there's a lot of untold stories. So, I mean, I think tucking, like, like Enterprise, Discovery, I think there's a lot of untold stories that we just don't know. I mean, look at all the cool stuff we had with Shran and stuff like that.
Oh, Shran's great.
the Andorian thing was awesome, and the Tellarites were awesome. I mean, there were so many cool stories that we just did not know about the formation of the Federation.
Yeah, and I like Enterprise overall. It's a great show.
I do too. There's a lot.
Like I said, like this episode, I think I sort of get what you're saying a little bit. Like this episode wasn't as good as I was remembering it being because I basically just focusing on that one action shot of the bridge. But it definitely kind of got me in the feels a little bit with how T'Pol took care of Archer,
right?
And that was like really, really important. And like I always felt that their kind of relationship was kind of leading toward that anyway. And whenever
I always did too, and then Tucker came in.
Tucker came in, and it never made sense to me. Like it wasn't bad. It just didn't make as much sense as
like Worf and Troy.
Yeah,
like just it showed up, and you're just like, yeah. Because I always thought like season 1 and maybe a little bit in season 2, you had these feelings that maybe Archer and T'Pol might get together.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they didn't, and it's just weird. I'm just like, yeah. And then this episode shows that they probably would have gotten together. Then all of a sudden Tucker comes in, and it's just like
with Southern charm. And obviously this one has like huge like.
I like if Saval comes in. And
it's like, you can go now if you want.
She's like, yeah, you can go. And she's like, first thing he says to her is like, oh, that uniform doesn't suit you. Oh, so he doesn't like use his imagination whenever she's wearing her skin tight suit. It's like, yeah, I need you to go back to that because I
thought she looked good in the uniform. I kind of wish she was. I mean, obviously I like her in the skin tight one, but she looked cool in that uniform. It looked like, I don't know, somehow fitting on her. So I don't know why, but I wish you saw a little more of that later on.
I like her quote unquote Vulcan outfit.
Yeah, me too. Next,
which is very similar to 7 of 9's outfit.
The other thought I had was obviously this has like connotations of dementia and Alzheimer's, that he can't form any long-term memories. I mean, my grandfather passed away of Alzheimer's, and it's one of those things, and it runs in my family, so it's like I could get tested, I guess, to find out if I have it or have. I'm pretty sure.
Or Irmotic. We have like
Irmotic syndrome.
Yeah, we've had 2 back-to-back where we kind of had
brain diseases. But at first, like Alzheimer's starts out with you just forgetting the simple little things like where you put your keys, like what you had to do that day. Or
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
No.
Well, but the thing is like, and then it starts getting this like you forgot. Like everything that was supposed to happen the week before, or what happened last week, and then you're forgetting, like big events, like don't you remember they got married? Okay,
yeah.
Just stuff like that, and then you're forgetting people altogether. And it was funny with my grandfather. It was like because he grew up in the Great Depression era. We took him down to the area. It was called it's the First Ward in Buffalo where he grew up, which is like predominantly an Irish area at the time. Mm-hmm. And he could tell us, and this is when he was in full swing of Alzheimer's. He could tell us everything about that neighborhood. We would drive through it. And he goes, "Yeah, I grew up here, and so lives here, and blah blah blah." It's like so he knew all the details. He could remember everything from his past, but he couldn't remember who I was.
So sad.
It's weird. So. And I've thought about it, like, distinctly, like, and I know some people might think this is, like, an awful thing to say, but if I ever get Alzheimer's, I just might take, a long walk off a short pier because, it's rough. At first it's, like, maybe a little trying, but then, you become completely bedridden. You can't get out of bed. You can't you can't shave yourself. You can't do anything. So... It's hugely trying on your family. So, I'm not saying like that's for everybody. I saw what happened to my grandfather. I was like, I don't know if I want to be a burden to everybody. It's like at that point, what quality of life do you have? Like he became like you become technically a vegetable. Like there's nothing there. You're just a husk of what you were. Like a empty. A vessel,
just empty shell. Yeah,
that's heart still beating until your brain stops functioning to keep your body alive. It's crazy. Yeah. So my thoughts went to that obviously because that's the type of guy I am. It's nice that his thing was a little different because he wasn't like degenerating. He just couldn't remember past.
It was more like
he just couldn't remember past a date, and then
it was all kind of just blank after a certain date.
Yeah.
In the Memory Alpha, they're talking it was interesting, a facet I actually want to read instead of paraphrase. It says Captain Archer's condition was probably inspired by a real-life story of Henry Molassian in 1957. In an attempt to cure him of epilepsy, Mr. Molassian had 2/3 of his hippocampi paraseminal cortexes. I know I butchered that, so sorry. Any scientists out there or medical expertise? Intercorneal cortices, perforated cortices, and angelizide removed. From that point on, Molassian, or HM, as he soon became known in the medical text, became unable to commit new facts to long-term memory. For each subsequent day until his death in 2008, people had to explain to him, like DePaul does for Archer in the episode, what the date was and what has happened since 1957, including having to break to him the death of his parents. The long-term study of Molassian's case has revolutionized understanding and the organization of human memory and formed the basis of what we know today on the subject.
Interesting.
From 1957 to 2008.
It's annoying.
Like, that is
Frustrating.
insane.
Well, obviously, Paul is a Vulcan, so she can kind of like...
Yeah, but a human had to put up with it.
Put up like, oh...
Put up with him
again?
for 50 years.
Yeah. It's a long time.
To like to wake up and it's like, wow, why am I old? Like, I was just like throwing baseball with Jimmy like a day ago.
Yeah.
Jimmy's old. He's got like 6 kids.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Your parents are what?
Yeah.
Like every day, like reliving like the heartbreak of the life you don't remember.
Well, it's probably a lot of stuff that you... Like, I bet you there's times you don't have to tell them, like, all the bad stuff.
Sure. I mean, you probably don't have to tell them all the bad things every day, but I mean, like, just the way like, it was hitting Archer. I mean, I thought Bakula did a great job. Like, there's 6,000 people left, and at this point in time, there's probably like 20 billion humans.
Yeah.
All over the galaxy.
Right.
Whatever.
Right,
like, like 6,000. It's just like that's worse numbers than Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. Yeah, that's extinction. I mean, obviously that's why it's called Twilight, because of the twilight of the human race.
Yeah.
And the last thought was, would you be comfortable forgetting everything at like Archer if you were to be married to T'Pol? Is that an even trade-off?
Is that an even trade-off? I don't know. Like, you're going to forget about all the awesome sex you had.
Yeah, but still.
It's like, I get to experience it for the first time every time.
Every time.
I don't know. That's a pretty good trade-off.
This is wonderful. You're such a wonderful person. That's the next thing that came, I thought.
That's a pretty good trade-off. What about you?
Maybe. That's pretty big. I don't know.
It's pretty big, but it's also a pretty good trade-off. I don't know.
And see everything kind of for the first time that way, so...
It would be pretty miserable, though. Especially if you're in that kind of situation. And, like, real life, like, nowadays, if something like that had happened, like, it'd be terrible, but I don't know.
Yeah, knowing that human race is kind of on the downswing.
And then having to learn about it every single day. It's like, there's only 6,000 of us left. It's like that. That's, like, soul-crushing. But, I mean, like, but still, just that guy, HM or whatever his name was, like, that was crazy. And 50 years, like...
That's a long time.
It only happened to Archer for, like, 12?
12. Well, a lot happened in that 12 years.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah,
just like the fact that this is a real thing that's happened to somebody.
Well, other than being...
Curing his epilepsy.
And interdimensional parasites living.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a thing yet.
That's not a thing yet. But, I mean, like, his syndrome was something that has happened. So, I mean...
Yeah.
It's just a different way of inducing it. I don't know,
instead of Twilight, I think they should have called it Captain Archer gets quantum worms that gives him Alzheimer's. That's sort of what they called it.
That'd be a long title.
I know. Be funny though. So those are some of the thoughts I had. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to live with somebody like that when they don't know everything that's happening. So that's a tough thing to live through. I mean, I'm sure with the person it's hard, too, because they're always confused. Like, what? Mom and Dad are dead? Oh, Jimmy got married? Stuff like that. All that.
Jimmy's got 6 kids?
Got 6 kids? What? But still, it's just, being the caretaker is the rough part, too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
At least, like I said, Archer didn't get worse. He just started over every day, like Memento kind of thing. Like, wake up just not remembering.
I don't know what's happened.
Yeah. So.
Except at least he can keep his memory for, like, hours instead of, like, minutes, like in Memento. It's
yeah,
like,
right.
In Memento, he's losing his memory, like, minutes after they happen.
Yeah. Which
is crazy.
Yeah. But, yeah, so... I mean, it's a fun episode. I like this episode. I think it's a standard kind of a Star Trek-esque episode. You know, it's got its own little story.
It's a non sequitur. Yeah, just like pretty much. All good things was a non sequitur.
Right.
I mean, at least Picard kind of remembered what happened, but no one else did. No one else had any knowledge. No one had any knowledge of what happened.
Well, even
episode.
Inner Light. Inner Light's very similar in a way because he's kind of like, encapsulated story that really doesn't impact anything.
Year of Hell.
Yeah, Year of Hell. Yeah.
Star Trek does lots of non sequiturs that just... And that's part of the saddest thing about Star Trek's like episodes, because sometimes the non sequiturs are the best episodes, and then it's just like, well, look, we have to hit the reset button, and it doesn't matter, no one remembers.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, why?
It was so good.
It's so good, and no one remembers. No one will ever reference this ever happening again.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad.
Yeah. Yesterday's Enterprise. Yeah, there's so many like great episodes.
Guinan remembers.
Guinan remembers. Oh,
do you remember Yesterday's Enterprise? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farm cookies used to be so good. Sit in my rocking chair, recount the days of yore.
I killed them with my gums.
My gums?
I don't have any teeth.
I eat cream corn.
And no one cares.
So
wait, that's crack corn. Sorry,
crack corn. Anyway, so yeah, that's actually the funny thing is because you're saying these non sequiturs are some of the funner episodes, or at least more memorable in a lot of cases. I'm assuming because this is Discovery is kind of like a serialized thing. I don't think we'll get a non sequitur.
We're not going to get any non sequiturs.
I mean, unless they do something specific for that. But,
yeah. But I just don't think they have time. Because I think this season, I know it got an extra couple episodes. It's going to be like, 15 episodes long instead of like 10? Yeah. But like, that's still not a lot of episodes.
See,
so, I mean,
nowadays, you can't slow down, tell a non sequitur a story that doesn't have any impact. Back in my day, non sequitur stories were so common.
They were the best that Star Trek had to offer a lot of times.
A mirror episode, or two-parter at that for Enterprise. We could slow down and just tell those stories nice, slow, and sweet.
I wonder if they'll go into the mirror universe with Discovery. That would be interesting.
Not for the first
get
season.
Captain Loken and with his Lauren with his goatee. Get Mr. Malfoy with a goatee on.
Not for this.
Get Martin Sequoia Green with a goatee.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. No, I don't think we'll get. I don't think we'll get anything. I don't think we'll get anything similar to that for the first season. I think they'll tell us straight ahead stories. Maybe for second
Especially
season.
Considering Harry Mudd's going to be in a couple of the episodes. He's not just going to be in one. He's going to be in like at least two.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I'm just like, that's really weird. They're supposed to be telling this big, strong story arc, and Harry Mudd's all tied up in it somehow.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, anything else to say about Twilight?
No. Go watch it. Go see a bridge blow up. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Maybe not a riveting episode. There's some interesting parts of it. I mean, obviously the Earth gets blown up in the first minute
before the opener.
And then we get that awful beginning sequence story or theme song. But everything else is pretty cool. And it's interesting to see the kind of flashbacks as T'Pol tells Archer everything that's happening. But it doesn't. It's not like the greatest episode you'll ever see, but
sure, yeah. And it's been a while since we've done Enterprise. So we wanted to get some Enterprise in there,
yeah,
because this is the year of Voyager.
This is the year of Voyager.
And speaking of Voyager, we've got Adam Herr coming on next week from the Geekiverse.
The Geekiverse,
and we're going to be talking about a Voyager two-parter because he grew up with and watched Voyager with his dad, Pete, the Grumpy Geek, who you've heard on the show a couple times.
Yep. Absolutely, unification, grumpy unification. So yeah, good episode, but still not. it's just like Enterprise, like just somehow just misses the mark of awesome.
I do feel like we're kind of like missing the mark of like there's like we're missing a note or something. Like where's the note that just makes it perfect? You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's not good. It's just not amazing.
Yeah.
And like so many like. Okay, yeah, not every Next Generation episode was amazing, but the ones that were so memorable that you just never forget.
Yeah, with this one, it's like I just remember that one scene, and then it's like, oh.
Well, like when our last Enterprise, when we talk about the augments.
Yeah.
You know, those were fantastic episodes. There was really nothing terrible about them, but, you know, like, it's kind of like vague.
Yeah, it is.
Like, you don't go like, man, that was a great scene, like this or that, you know, like, there's just a lot of vagueness to it, so.
Paul Muad'Dib has that effect on people.
Yeah, no, I don't know. So there's something about Enterprise. I every time we watch it, I still wonder, like, why is this not, like, awesome? Like,
it's just not clicking the same way.
It's good, but it's not awesome, you know, so.
Gotcha, yeah. Hopefully, one of you guys know, and if you know...
If there's something that you think that why Enterprise isn't wonderful, definitely email us at synthaholics@yahoo.com, or you could, message us on the Facebook group page. And
start a new post on the Facebook group.
You could do that. Or if you want, you could do a quick audio clip on your smartphone and then just attach it to your email and send it to us at synthaholics@yahoo.com.
And we'll be happy to play that on the air and just have fun listening to it and responding to it for all to hear.
It's just something that confounds me because it's not a bad series. It's actually there's a lot of good parts about it, but I can't figure out exactly what it is that makes me go, it's like, man, it just doesn't hit on all thrusters. It's just a little off, so don't know what that might be.
Yeah. I'm starting to, the more we're talking about this, I'm starting to feel it more and more. I'm like, there's some kind of missing. But, on the other hand, it's this highly, highly well-produced show.
Yeah.
Like, just, it's got the widescreen format.
Sure.
The effects are absolutely astounding. Like, the Mole Man, he's in the episode for less than 2 minutes.
But he looks awesome.
And the makeup was awesome.
His ship was pretty cool, too.
Yeah, his ship was cool.
Yeah.
Just all the little details they put into it. So I can't wait to see what a brand new Star Trek series is going to bring.
Oh, it's going to be
and, made in art, this year. Our time. Yeah, not 15 years ago.
Well, that was my time, too.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, it was our time. It was my time, too, also. But, it's not the same,
Yeah.
It's over a decade old, and technology has come so far.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. So our intro is provided by Dave Wilkes. Warp 11 does the rest of our music. You can find them at warp11.com or warp11 on Twitter. The show you can find on Twitter at Synthaholic Duo. I'm at David_J_Duncan. Aaron's at Blackbird 2004. And Guy is at GS Davis Art. And if you like pictures of booze, you can check out my Instagram at David_J_Duncan.
Very good. Hey, if you want to support the show, we would greatly appreciate that you would roll on over to Patreon at Synthaholics and throw us a buck. A buck a month is hardly anything, and it just helps us. I mean, if you have more, that'd be wonderful. But it's nothing. Out of your pocket. If you can throw it, it just keeps us going, keeps the website going, and hopefully it'll get more. We can get out and do more things with a little more funding. So
and hopefully we'll be able to visit more cons with more funding as well. Right now we've got enough to keep our the lights on, which is great, but. Any more we can always...
But it's ramen noodles. That's all
noodles.
It is.
And then also any equipment upgrades we can do as well.
And Dave's got a huge drinking habit. I mean...
I don't spend it on booze.
But I do spend it on my heroin habit, so... But hey, if that's not in your budget, we totally understand. We've all been there. If you can take a minute, jump on iTunes, give us a rate and review us, give us 5 stars, write a quick sentence or two of what you like about the show.
Those are super valuable as well.
Yeah, it helps us. The Apple algorithms that pump through all the podcast worlds. Yeah, all Stitcher, Google Play, it all ranks.
iHeartRadio.
Yeah, they all go through the iTunes algorithm somehow. So that would be wonderful if you could do that. Also, if you have any friends, if you have any family members, classmates, workmates,
prison cell buddies,
mailmen, milkmen, let them know about
elevator men.
Let them know about Synthaholics. Say, hey, I listen to this podcast. It's about Star Trek. We would love if you pass it along. Word of mouth is a wonderful thing. So let people know about our show if anybody's talking about podcasts and maybe looking for more content. I'm always looking for more content, and a lot of times I'm finding be quite lacking.
Yeah, and you've always suggested some really good shows to me in the past. So I mean, word of mouth is really how you spread podcasts, because I'd say probably like half the podcasts I listen to are ones that Aaron has recommended to me. So, yeah, you really gotta. I mean, we really appreciate it, but if you would tell people about Synthaholics, because we don't really do any kind of advertising as of yet on the show. So,
right.
Word of mouth is where it's at. If you like the show, tell your friends to listen to podcasts. Tell your friends who don't listen to podcasts.
Yeah, explain a podcast.
Yeah, tell them what podcasts are. There's even if they don't like Star Trek, there's great content, and maybe they'll just come listen anyway.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. Live long and prosper, one and all.
We'll cry till we laugh, and we'll both shit our pants. You're the best drinking friend I ever had.
I forgot. Wait. Why am I old gray and shriveling? Why are my balls down to my knees?
The Paul's been sucking the life out of you. Quite literally.
I think I'm going to like this world I'm living on. SETI Alpha what?
I'll die before it goes super shit. Now, if
Maybe
Paul has anything to do with it.
Maybe T'Pol will make it go supernova.
Woo!
Oh.
It's so pretty.
It might be worth it.
It might be.